to hear your baseball story, man. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of been the most fun thing about this is like everybody has these unique kind of perspectives and coming up the ladder. And I'm talking to Travis a little bit, and he's like, "Oh, dude, you got to talk to Andy. Like
Yeah.
he's got a great one." So let's hear it.
I grew up in the Northwest. I'm from Salem, Oregon. My mom's side of her family were all athletes. I'm one of 7 kids. My
wow.
2 brothers. I'm in the middle, so 2 of my brothers played Division I football.
Okay.
At Oregon State. My sister was a Division I softball player at Oregon. There was just influence of a lot of kids and some sports early that got us going. So from Salem, just kind of went into South Salem High School and I was pretty good athlete, pretty good baseball player growing up. Big, Babe Ruth World Series. I don't think they have Babe Ruth anymore, but I was a part of some pretty good teams and knew I wanted to play baseball and football in high school. I could play basketball, but I think I was smart enough to know that my body wasn't set for that.
And 3 sports nowadays. I mean, I guess it was a little different back when we were growing up, but that's good though.
So early 2000s, there wasn't really, Washington baseball was probably the best. Oregon State was a really good team as well, but there wasn't really a powerhouse going on yet.
Yeah.
And I went to I had an opportunity to go to Oregon State out of high school and walk on some other schools. I ended up going to junior college.
Okay.
I had an old coach that coached on one of my travel teams, when I was a sophomore, and just said, "Hey man, if you don't get the big scholarship or whatever you're looking for, come to Mount Hood." And I went to Mount Hood, and that's kind of in the Northwest at that time where you went to hone your skills and play for an NWAC championship. And there I after a pretty good high school career, but not really a great big scholarship, I went there and I got better. I got better as a student. I got better as a person. I got better, as a hitter in the weight room. I transformed my body and got some kind of old school discipline coaching.
Yeah.
With there's a pride the way you wear your uniform. There's a standard, and you're going for a championship. And so in Mount Hood, we were pretty good. We had some good players on our team, and then I got a scholarship to Oregon State. And a lot of the Northern Pac schools, and a lot of pretty good schools that weren't really nationally known. But I chose to go to Oregon State, honestly, because it was close to home.
Yeah.
My brothers were playing football at a high level, and it was the Pac-12.
Yeah,
I remember being on a trip when I was at Mount Hood. We would go to Arizona and play the affiliate teams.
Okay.
And then we popped over and saw Arizona State playing Stanford on like a Friday night. And you can imagine what it was like. I'm a freshman in college, and we're all just kind of looking at the next step. And the players were ridiculous at the time. I wish I could go back and look at the roster of that actual game. It was in 2000. But I just looked at my coach, Gabe Sandy, who's a good friend of mine now. He's a scout. And I just said, I want to play in this league.
Yeah.
I didn't – sure, you wanted to play at those types of schools, but it wasn't going to happen at that point. And that's why I went to the Pac-12. And then, when I got to Oregon State, we were good. The program was hungry. I hadn't had that success to get to the regionals and on to Omaha. And I was a part of a team that did that in 2005, first time since 1952. And then really since then, the programs took a national
for sure
trajectory just off the charts, and with the players and the expectations and the facilities and junior year actually I went there and did okay. I was a part. We just missed the regional. I started most of the year. If we would have beat UCLA, swept them at home, we would have made the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we didn't do that. I think they won 2 or 3, and then in 2005 we were electric. We had this energy. We had good leadership. We had good young players. We had pitching. Coaches were all on the same page, and with that season, I got drafted in the 11th round. I went to play for the Marlins, in the minor leagues, and went to Jamestown, New York, in the New York Penn League. Yeah. First place I played. Really interesting, just how that the process of I started late because we were in Omaha and went out and started my pro career, and I was only there. I went like 5 for 10 with like 5 doubles in my first 3-4 games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so they were like,
you're feeling good.
Well, I think I was fresh, and I don't know.
That's right.
Whatever.
Right
I just came in and I hit,
yeah.
and they're like, well, we're going to move you up. Somebody broke their hand in Greensboro.
Okay.
And we're going to send you up there. And if you take the New York Penn League and you look at what Jamestown Jammers were doing at
Yeah.
that time in their facilities, going to Greensboro, I thought like this is the big leagues. It was the nicest stadium ever. The Thursday nights they were getting more fans than they were with the big league club in Miami. It was you know, it was a pretty good experience, and honestly I grinded through the minor leagues. I played a lot of positions. I hit. I was always kind of a reliable person for the manager,
Yeah.
and I got to AAA. I played a lot of AA and was in some big league camps and
Yeah.
experienced some tremendous things for 7 or 8 years, and then got into coaching. But my pro career was it was fun. It's ups and downs,
Yeah,
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean? And you
Yeah.
learn a lot about yourself. I traveled so many places I never, thought I'd go. Most of my pro career was in the South,
Yeah.
the Sally League, the the Southern
Southern
League,
League,
the Florida State League. And then I got Rule 5 at one point in my career towards the end of the Rangers, and played in Frisco and played in Oklahoma City, played in the PCL. So played a lot of ball, didn't quite make it to the big leagues, but man, I tell you, I showed up to spring training early all the time. My body was in tip-top shape. I knew I wasn't like, I had to fight my way there, and I'm proud of the fact that I did all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then when it was kind of towards the end, I played a little. I think when I first met you here, we were just talking about
the Atlantic
League, and I got released at such a late time by Scott Service, actually, the manager of. He was the farm director for the Rangers at the time, and I was like packing up, saying bye up in Portland. 2 or 3 of my buddies were in the big leagues, and we were just going after it. And he calls me just like, "Hey, we got like 3 international players that had been suspended for multiple years that are coming back. They're all in their mid-20s. They all kind of do what you do. We don't want to send you back to AA. We're going to release you." So it wasn't that I appreciated him. He was great. He was always a uniform guy out there, not a top hat rolling around in a cart. He always was talking to you when you're shagging, and he's a good dude. But the timing just didn't really set me up for for getting a spot in spring training in a week or 2. And so I mulled around with the Atlantic League and went through a spot. Mentally, I wasn't there. I was thinking on the next step and worried about what happened. And why I'm not with affiliate ball, kind of maybe sense of embarrassment, you know what I mean? Just all that stuff you kind of go through. And what I learned from that experience is anytime I get a player that I think could get back to affiliate ball, had my mindset been better, there's some great players in the Atlantic League, big leaguers, 10-year big leaguers, and some scouts will come and snag you and give you that opportunity. There's been stories like that before, but for me, I just was I was ready to move on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it didn't work out, but not a crazy lengthy career, but, proud of a lot of good things, and it kind of took off when I was at Oregon State and 1 year of really just a lot of the things I had been working on for years matched up, and I decided to be a leader and take on a role that I had never really like fully dove into. And what I found out is when I became a leader, my game followed.
Yeah.
Because, so many players out there, they put so much expectations on themselves. If they would just rely on the guys around them,
for sure,
the game but to get a kid to understand that with everything, needed right now and all the things that we have, you can kind of get lost in that aspect of it. And so I thought I was a mature baseball player growing up, and I thought I was always heady and in the game, and I played a lot of positions. I was passionate about the sport and the people that I was watching, and I was like, I want to coach. I want to coach at Oregon State. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, hey, I want to jump back into this right away, and it worked out. Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, seriously. So what was it about Oregon State when you guys are making that run that made you want to come back there? Just obviously there must have been some connection that you felt with your guys, with the program.
Yeah, I mean it's a college town. It's a great place to be. They're super passionate about the sport. Just that bond when you win a championship, no matter what kind of championship it is. When you're young or old, you experience something that should be your why you play any sport,
for sure,
to win a championship. And when you dogpile and you just make so many different type of people in Corvallis and Oregon State baseball and the Pac-12 and even the Northwest, you make them so proud. of your story and all that, you just kind of feel like, hey man, I want to be a part of something like that, you know, and um, you know, I'll always have those memories, I'll always have those deals, and you know, now I want to go make them somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And jump on that feeling and let kids experience those experiences that I had. You know,
Yeah.
that gave me confidence, that made me be a leader, that made me really want to be better in life.
For sure.
You know, going forward.
So what? I mean, I gotta imagine there's some kind of like pride too. Like you guys were the first ones. Like Oregon State. So we were very similar in age. I'm 40. I think you're 37.
Mm-hmm.
Like Oregon State back then was good. Like it was a good program, but it wasn't. Like now, Oregon State is Oregon State.
Sure.
Like, I mean, it's national. They might win the World Series almost every year they're there. You know, like there's that conversation. They're in that conversation. So I mean, there's got to be some pride, right? I mean, your group was the first one that kind of put them on the map.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the program had been around forever, and when I was there, I was involved with a lot of alumni and had a lot of relationships with people, and there were so many good players that came before that first year too. So, I mean, there was a new stadium in '99. There was a new coach, and after a coach that had been there forever, and so there was a good base going into that. I just think there was an ingredient in 2005 that you know, maybe Coach Casey saw for the first time, where he, as a competitor and a fiery guy, could sit back and watch a group of guys take ownership of what they were doing, have fun, compete, practice hard.
Yeah.
Really all the cliches that you could
course,
say a coach wants, and we just went, you know, and then, you know, we lost to Baylor, and then we lost to Tulane, who was the number 1 seed. And then we lost to Baylor in 2 close games. Could have went, I mean, you know, 4-3, 5-3,
exactly.
you know, and then you're out of the World Series, and I go on to Pro Ball, and you know, I knew that there was going to be some swagger in '06. I mean, you had some really, you know, good characters, good leaders. You had talent, and they win back-to-back national championships, in '06, '07, and it was just incredible. You know, I mean, I can't tell you the feelings that the program and all that had, and you know, actually both times I got to watch the deciding game, we got rained out in whatever town I was in.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Because, you know, in the South, you get rain every day, but to get a rain out, it's got to like really come for a long time, and
it's got to stay past 5 o'clock. And normally it stops right at like 5:20, and you're like, oh, we're playing.
Yeah, so I got to sit and, you know, probably had a couple pizzas on the desk, and had another roommate that I probably knew or probably got assigned to or whatever, but you know, watched the boys, you know, win a national championship, and then, you know, from those 3 years to what it is now, facilities, just, you know, national notoriety, you know, all that stuff that you know, a lot of guys were a part of bringing, but I thought 2005 kind of popped us over the hill a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. So you're in this close-knit environment in Oregon State, and then you go to Pro Ball. What was the difference, like from a, I guess, team chemistry type of thing? I obviously felt a lot different when I was at Florida versus going to the Indians. There's some differences.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just explained one with the Jamestown, the facilities, the dingy lights. I mean, it was like a city park. It felt like,
it really
you know
was.
what it was.
I know,
and,
I played there too. Gosh.
You know, everybody had different stuff on. My pants were so tight because I was like the last guy to get there. I mean, just certain things that, like, you know, you're like, this is professional baseball, and then you're going to jump on a bus and drive to, you know, Batavia or something.
And
so
get a Domino's pizza as your post game.
Yeah, so that definitely changed as I got to Greensboro. And then I was like, whoa, brand new stadium, big, you know, big league cage. The grounds were unbelievable.
Fans.
The GM, the fans, you know, all that stuff. And beyond that point, I was pretty lucky. Like, you know, then I went to the Florida State League. We played in Jupiter. You know, not a lot of fans, but great park, great facilities. You're around spring training. Then I went to Jacksonville Suns in Jacksonville. Great setup, great place to be. I played for the Carolina Mudcats. So the facilities, I guess what I'm saying, always were pretty good.
Okay.
Oklahoma City was legit. I just Frisco was really nice. So I was fortunate because you always had a buddy or two that, hey man, I'm out here in Hagerstown, and you know, I know all these places probably have upgrades by now, but you know, they got, hey, this and this, and really I got pretty spoiled with cool places, great stadiums, good people. I think from the game standpoint, just winning. I just came off of like a team that was all about winning. I
Yeah.
was addressing the team, leading the team. You don't really know what to do because you're playing with guys that have played. I always tell kind of a story. I remember got off to a rough start when I got in Greensboro, but I had to play every day because there's nobody else.
Yeah.
Guy broke his hand.
Yep.
So it's not like, hey, we're going to give you a break. If you're 0 for 11, you're in
out
there. You're in there.
Yeah.
You go 0 for 15,
Yeah.
you're going to. So I remember we went back and we're eating and having a couple beers with some guys that I just met, you know, and I'm like somber. I'm like not talking or whatever. I'm sure I was putting that vibe off to the
For
guys.
sure. Yeah.
This guy named Steve Gendron who played at Mississippi State, was a shortstop.
Played against him.
He looks at me and he goes, "What are you mad about?" He might have said something else.
Yeah.
You know, what, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, man, 0 for 4. And he like looks at another guy and he's just like, he's mad about 0 for 4.
Yeah.
You know, because at Oregon State that last year, if I didn't get 2 or 3 hits, like it was just the way it was.
Yeah, no, there's different.
And he just goes, "Hey man, last year, let me tell you, I went 0 for 46 at one point." And he goes, "You think 0 for 4 tonight was bad?" And and then they start like joking with him about how bad it was last year. And then it was just like a night, like, come on, man, you're gonna go 0 for 4. You want to play a lot in this game, you know, you're gonna make that 0 for 4 and 0 for 3 with a walk, you know, and just some stuff like that. But I enjoyed playing in the minor leagues. Had a lot of great a lot of my minor league coaches in A-ball, they're all in the big leagues.
Yeah.
As managers, as third base coaches, and so it's cool to see that the Marlins had a good youth staff at that time at the rookie ball, A-ball, AA, and now they're doing great things. And as I coach, and there's conventions and social media, I get to talk to those guys a lot of times and chop it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I gotta imagine. I mean, it sounds like so you played for Casey, you played for an awesome. What was the name of your junior college coach?
Gabe Sandy.
So played for Gabe Sandy. Yeah. I mean, it just seems like there have been millions of coaches that impacted you. What stands out when you think back of the guys that like really impacted you? What were their personality characteristics or like traits that really you held on to like today?
Yeah, I think a balance. Even before those guys, Terry Haugen in high school, and I had Babe Ruth. I mean, I literally was pretty lucky to have. I don't want to say the dad coach, but maybe the dad coach that had some knowledge or had some credibility in town. And
no, that's a big part of it.
And I think that at the junior college it was a program that Gabe had took over from a kind of an old school legend up in the Northwest. His name's Dale Stebbins.
Okay.
And it's Stebby ball. You wear your stirrups a certain way. You can show some sock. You're gonna tuck it up. Yeah. You're gonna make sure that the cage is cleaned up, and you're gonna take care of your house. And they were winning championships. And Gabe Sandy, who played for him, took over for him. So and he's a real personable guy. He's a friend of mine now because we love sports. We both have daughters, and I think he had the balance of being kind of a player's coach, and then he had the foundations of what the program was all about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's huge.
Discipline,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I think when you have both, that's good. Rather than just the discipline.
Yeah,
nothing's fun. You don't want to go to practice. Discipline, or the loose-haired coach that doesn't have any discipline.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like the balance of that, and I think that when I described that 2005 team with Oregon State, I think Coach Casey found that after a decade of coaching, maybe even a little bit more, that balance of what you should do and shouldn't do as a coach. And so those two guys definitely are big mentors of mine. Watching the competitiveness of Coach Casey is just off the charts. I mean, it's you kind of just are up in Corvallis and people want to know what you're doing, but you're kind of building something. And, there's this mantra about the program in Case that is just focused. Yeah. There's not a lot of side left and right stuff. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Just eye on the prize and get your stuff done. And, he also is pretty fun when you get him loose. Yeah. You just gotta poke at him a little bit because those competitors.
No, I know they're singularly focused. So your junior college experience reminds me a lot of mine. So I played at a place called LA Harbor College, and when I went there previously, big leaguers, state championships, two legendary head coaches, a guy named Coach O'Brien and Coach Bloomfield, and so I played for a guy named Coach Ullman, who was at Oregon for a long time, and just the same type of thing. Like I thought he nailed he was competitive as can be. Like there are days where you'd look at him wrong and you're like, oh, we're getting buried.
You talking about
today.
Jay?
Yeah, Jay. Yeah. We're getting buried today. And but could like quote Dumb and Dumber as soon as practice was over.
Sure.
So like the connection was there to the point where, when I coach now, he's been a huge mentor to me as far as we still have a great relationship, but also like, I sometimes do a Jay impression when I'm coaching.
Yeah.
Like it's funny how that happens. So
that's cool. I actually just to mention Jay a little bit. He tweeted something yesterday or 2 days ago about Tulane in 2005 doing something. So I keep in touch with him a little bit more now that he's not at Oregon and I'm not at Oregon State.
Exactly.
We ran into each other and we're like, oh, we can actually be friends. Yeah. We don't have to hate each other. Same with Horton. Obviously, now that I'm at Fulton, it's funny. But I just said, hey, we were in that's the team that beat us, and so we jabbed a little bit. Just talking yesterday on social media, but we played Tulane this year, and they won 2 or 3 in some close games, and I feel bad for Tulane because they were going to be good this year.
Yeah,
and the staff, you know what I mean. And then coronavirus happens, and you're like, man, that was a team that would have surprised some people. And wasn't quite nationally on the set yet, but would have been there. So Jay's a good dude.
Jay's a good dude, man.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, that's like I said, Jay impression. Half the time I'm out coaching, it's kind of funny how that works. All right, so take me through the back end of your career. You're in the Atlantic League playing for Camden. How does it finish? Like, what's the transition towards the end, and how do you know when to walk away? Like, that's something I had a tough time with.
Yeah, so I think once I got released from the Rangers, I probably was like confident in calling my agent and people to help me get back onto somebody, and then I couldn't. I think I started at that point like, wow, I'd never thought I would get released. I mean, everybody at some point doesn't think they're going to get released until they do, and everybody does.
Yes.
I was trying to stay positive. I knew I'd worked hard in the off season, and I knew the Atlantic League was the best league. And you had to have certain type of experience that I had. I didn't know much about it though. I didn't know a lot of people in it. The people that were helping me didn't know a lot about the coaches. There were some big name coaches that were old school big leaguers, but I didn't really know. And so signed up in Camden, New Jersey, just over the bridge to Philadelphia. It was kind of an experience. I went out there and we had some big leaguers. We had Toby Hall. We had we had a lot of guys. I can't remember now, but that had 5-6 years in the big leagues, 2 years in the big leagues, and they were trying to get back. It was a competitive lineup, and I played a little bit, had a little bit of fun, and then I basically wasn't playing a lot because we brought in a big leaguer that was a Phillies guy. Vaughn Hayes was our coach.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a great.
You're right across the bridge. And
it was just how you got off the
tickets,
plane to go to the organization, and just the structure of everything was so much different. It was so unorganized, and I didn't play there long. And I just basically said, "Hey, I'm going to go find another league. I'm trying to get back to independent or to affiliate ball." I just kind of had that mentality rather than maybe just going out having fun. Scouts are going to come around the All-Star break, and then you're going to get back in the saddle. So I don't think my mindset was great, and then I don't think I chose a great fit. To go play, and came home, and I actually signed in a West Coast league where I went up to Calgary in Canada. Yeah. And the league was kind of hanging on. There was a Hawaii team, there was a Chico team, there was an Edmonton team. Mm-hmm. So I'd go up there, and I play probably 2 weeks, and go down to Chico, and I remember we're playing, and I just kind of pulled a hamstring, and I just, after everything that happened in the last 4 months, I straight up went in the locker room. I was icing. I was trying to get it right, and I remember shooting Pat Casey an email, and he's not an email guy. Yeah. I had thoughts on my mind, and I was like, I want to coach. Yeah. Not necessarily with you or whatever. I knew he'd be a connector to get me in there, and it's funny because our team was still playing. I'm in the locker room kind of making a decision. Yeah. And I probably even played for another week. Yeah. But I knew where I was. And we went back up to Canada. My grandma had passed away. I flew home from Canada, and I just was like, this is it.
And you're back in Oregon.
Yeah. I had a conversation with my dad. I just said, you know what, I'm done, you know, and let the team know. They sent my stuff back. And next thing you know, I became an undergrad at Oregon State for 1 year. Okay. 2012, we went to the LSU regional, and Coach Casey, Marty Lees, Nate Yeske was just hired
Yeah.
as a young coach at Oregon State, and went to LSU, and then Marty Lees, our recruiting coordinator, went to Oklahoma State.
Okay.
So Case was just like jump in, third base coach,
Yeah.
infield coach, kind of what Marty did as far as on the field duties, and I was there from 12 to last year.
Okay.
So.
And did you feel like it helped, like having something to go into right away that was kind of, because I feel like baseball has always kind of been all of our North Stars, right? I mean, we think about it all the time, and it's like how we focus our lives in spring training and big league season, or when you're coaching college or high school, it's like fall ball, and then it's break, and then it's season gets going.
Sure.
I mean, I gotta imagine that helps, right? Going into something that feels comfortable and feels like, this is normal.
Yeah, and I think it was different because a lot of the guys you played with, a lot of your buddies got out, and everybody kind of just stays in the game. They do lessons, they try to jump on with teams, and there's good money in that. I mean, there really
sure.
is if you want to put in the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you maybe aren't married or this and that, but I think that not just getting coaching to pass time to have somebody give me a job in the medical field or do something else. I jumped into coaching, was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it helped me get away from the playing, but it also gave me a head start on, like, I'm not just out here to throw BP to these guys. I want to teach them. I want to prove to Coach Casey that I want him to keep me, you know, and always trying to prove yourself and
without a doubt
and do stuff. And so 100% I was fortunate to always wanted to play baseball as long as I can. And when I got out, I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And there's 100% clarity still to this day that that's what I want to be involved in. And I'm fortunate in that way.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Like you said, a lot of guys can go down different traps and lose confidence and, have to pick up their identity. And that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And it's interesting too, because the guys, like you said, you hit it on the head. It's like when you still have something, you're golden. When you're just like, man, I'm supposed to be playing right now. I mean, so when were you able to just say, like, I'm not playing anymore? Like, I'm coaching now. Like, I'm not going to hit BP today. I'm not, taking GBs at first base or.
You know what, man? I always want to be a coach. I saw something with Lasorda passing away, and somebody had a clip. There's so much stuff on Twitter and social media where he was out taking ground balls, and this had to have been when he was like 50, 55.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I don't want to be that coach, be like, oh, I can't play catch, or I can't take some BP or some swings with you. I think there's value when you get in there with the guy. You go out and you do the drill with the infielders or the catchers, to an extent. But I think that when, you had the undergrad coaches and guys would go away, hey, let's take some BP.
Yeah.
And this is a month and, you're launching them into the parking lot or you're just trying to flex on the guys a little bit. There's definitely an avenue of it's hard to just not bring the glove and not want to go play catch and do all that stuff. But, I love taking BP. I love throwing BP. I love hitting ground balls. All that stuff's pretty fun. So, I think now that I don't train the way that I train, I like to run, jog, walk, do everything that's not that hard. But getting in there and getting under the squat rack and stuff is, once you stop doing that, you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I do not. The thing is, I don't miss that at all. Like the squats, like lifting weights, still enjoy it. Still, we'll get that once in a while, but dude, hitting, throwing plates on a squat rack and be like, all right, this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get anybody out anymore. So,
So was it a change up? I mean,
no, curveball. I had a curveball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not very firm, as I've mentioned many a times.
Loopier or like a slurve?
No, it was, what it was like? Ted Lilly, Rich Hill.
Okay.
It was good. Like,
back foot, kind of.
Yeah, back foot, could throw it for a strike. It had moments where it was sharper, had other moments where it was more of a, I'd get people out back to front. But,
yeah.
I mean, dude, I would have given anything for 3 miles an hour.
Sure.
Like, if I could have gone from, 85, 88 to 99, 89, 90.
Do you think, and I know you coach now, and I just met you, but I don't know all your philosophies on whatever, but do you think some of the training, not just, I'm not talking velocity training with stuff, but weight room stuff, there's new things that people have thought that
dude
give you velocity.
Right? I mean, think about what we had. And again, they all knew as much as they knew at the time. They're not their fault. They were doing as well, they were doing research, but the research at the time was just the basics: bench press, RDLs, squats, stuff like that. But now there's all this like mobility stuff and
Sure.
and understanding how it works. Like I didn't have a clue, man. I would drop and drive and throw it as hard as I could, and it was 86, and I'm like, dang it,
Sure.
what the hell?
Well, you got enough people out. That's a long time to play, man.
No,
as a guy that didn't have a lot of velocity,
No,
you must have been a competitor for sure.
I was competitive. Yeah, that's you know how that goes. It never goes away. I mean, like it's funny. I'll be watching a game that shouldn't matter. It's a midweek, college basketball game, and I'm dog cussing, some guy for missing a free throw down the stretch. It's like, it's tough to get away. I mean, so I got to imagine coaching helps with that, right? I mean, it's helped me a lot where I can at least channel it to something.
Yeah, for sure. I competitive with my wife, my kids, my family. You know what I mean? Like, that to be successful in life, especially in coaching and whatever you do, I think you got to be competitive.
For sure.
There has to be something underneath you, inside your skin that drives you.
Yeah.
To get bothered, to get inspired. You know what I mean? I think those emotions are pretty healthy. You just have to channel them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so all the coaches that I've been around, my father, my brothers, I'm surrounded by competitive people, and sometimes that can be a problem in a family setting.
I know.
Or a non-important setting that we think is important with some of the things we do. But yeah, definitely you want your players, and as a coach, some of the most competitive ones, have been great. If you think about football, past baseball coaches, the best in the game.
Yep.
All of them have a sense of competitiveness and discipline that's showing everybody that works.
Yeah. What do you do after games? Like when you guys lose, do you have any like before you get home stuff? Because I'm still working on this. Like I need to stop taking it home.
I think, I don't know what your setup is, but we go into our clubhouse or whatever, at Oregon State, or we would do. Yeah. And you just, somebody's sulking with you, you kind of talk, up to the coaches about something. Maybe everybody just kind of goes and doesn't talk to each other till the next morning, or maybe you sit together and have a few moments, but I don't think you dwell on it too much. I think the mental part of what you want your guys to your players, short-term memory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, it's a ball. He called it a ball. Let's get back on the bump.
Yeah.
Hey, we lost yesterday. Let's get back on the bump. Hey, we had a bad weekend. Let's get back.
Yeah.
As a coach, you have to do that too.
Yeah.
And you try not to bring it to the park the next morning and squash it. But, at some point, whatever went wrong, why you lost, you definitely want to teach that stuff too, and make sure that you don't do that again. So I've been around, guys that do different things, assistant coaches. But for me, I just kind of chill out, change my clothes, take my time.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's what everybody says. Like, just don't rush home. Like, just take your time if you need the extra half hour.
And I think that, if you grab a shower or whatever, they always say, you're going to turn it off.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you just, when you turn off the water, you washed away the game.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's so many mental things that you can think about that'll get you going. But there's always another day in baseball. And the great thing about baseball is it's probably tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I
it's
know,
not,
right? Yeah.
I can't imagine like if
football,
Rick
right?
Vanderhook or Pat Casey were football coaches.
Yeah, like you got to wait a whole week.
No
That's
way,
brutal.
Man. That would be the worst
brutal.
coming off a loss.
I know, especially if you're having a bad year too, and you lose 2 or 3 in a row, and you're waiting a month. I mean, I always go back to I was on a team that lost 100 games, and so it sounds bad, but you got used to losing. And then you get to a different setting, and especially like a college or high school setting where you're supposed to win every game, or at least 2/3 of your games or 3/4, and God, each loss just breaks you.
We were sitting in Springfield, Missouri, playing the Cardinals, and it was the night that I just remember this. We're sitting all there, and we know we're not going to play, but we know that the GM is trying to get ticket sales. He's trying to have people buy more beer before they announced it, and LeBron was doing the announcement, the decision. So whatever year that was. At the same time,
2011.
I think so. So at the same time, Cliff Lee gets traded from the Mariners to the Rangers. I'm with the Rangers.
Okay.
And it wipes. We were at a stud team. We were killer. We had all these young pitchers. We were winning. Taking care of the Texas League. And Cliff Lee gets 6 prospects, and 4 of them were on our team, and 4 of them were starting pitchers. So Steve Buechele was our manager, former big leaguer under
third baseman,
Nolan Ryan. Yeah. Great dude. And we lose after that. and I'm like an older guy on the team, so you know, if anybody's gonna try to take care of any situation, like, or have talk to anybody in pro ball
Yeah.
about like, let's go,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a guy like me. And so we lose like 15 in a row. We go on like the worst skid ever,
Holy.
and every single time I go to my locker and I'd see him, you know, come back in after talking to reporters or whatever. He would just he'd just be whistling. He'd grab the lineup and he'd go to his locker, and I'm just like, when's this guy gonna blow up? But I think he knew, like, dude, we just got our whole team stripped
Yeah,
from us.
exactly.
We you know, we went from like, you know, I think some guys got moved around too, and so how you deal with skids and stuff like that is really interesting, especially in pro ball. It can happen so much. But he was pissed, but I think he was smart enough to know that I can blow up on these guys, or I can just try to get them better, because they need to get better, because we're just not very good. We just lost, you know, all these guys. So, yeah, that's about the biggest loss streak I think I've went through is literally like 15 or 20 games.
Dude, that's and especially the thing is too, like the team I was just talking about, we lost 100 games. We stunk. Like, we weren't going to win 10 in a row. We honestly stunk. We had Cole Hamels at one point. They called him up. We had a couple other guys that were like fringy big league, called him up. And so we're just sitting here, the rest of us. And I'm not going good at the time, so I was no help either.
Sure.
The only thing I could do was I did some pregame. We had Jim Thome in town. And at the time, I could do a good crip walk.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'd love to see that.
They threw it on. They threw on some music, and so I did it, and we won. And so Jim Thome's still rehabbing with us next night. We're in Clearwater, Florida. He's like, "Hey, man, you got to do that again. We won last night." So I'm like, "All right." So that was the lone highlight of that.
Any way you can get in,
exactly.
I guess,
But
right?
yeah, no, it's funny, but I can't imagine being on like a really good team and losing 15 in a row, because Michelle's got to be going nuts inside.
Well, yeah, and it just, you know, I've also been on the JUCO team where I was telling you with Gabe Sandy, I think we won like 26 in a row at one point, and so then it's just like you expect it, and it's just two different extremes, and you know, most of the time you're trying to, you know, baseball's a game of momentum, right? You lose, you got to win.
Yeah.
You give up a run, you got to get it back.
Yep.
You know, we call those answer backs, and that's a big part of staying in games and winning games, and you know, that's the whole sport. It's so much momentum, and you got to ride the good stuff, and you know, you got to understand and acknowledge what's wrong with the streaks. So it's a crazy sport, man, for sure.
It really is. It's a mental beatdown. If you had boys, would you want them to play baseball? Obviously, right?
Definitely. I got two little girls. I want them to be athletic. They're always around athletics, but my wife she's not a former crazy athlete herself. She likes dance and Disney and Barbies and princesses.
We got a similar wife.
Yeah, but I mean, she also loves like the sports. She just didn't do it, and so if I had you know, kids, I would. I definitely want my little boy to play baseball.
Yeah,
you know, I get firsthand in coaching what kind of parent I want to be and what kind of parent I don't want to be.
Oh, yeah.
With your players.
For sure.
You know, you see a lot of problems. You know what I mean, and you know, that's at the college level, and really, if it's still going on at the college level with parenting, you know, it probably happened real young, and it just never stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. So what you got? Do you have kids?
I have two boys.
Two boys?
And
okay, so
I want them to play baseball, but I'm not going to go crazy. Like, one of them, they're 6 and 2, so they're super young, and I think they're going to play. But
yeah,
you know, I'm nudging, but I'm not full on. Because the same thing, like you said, like the parent side. There's nothing worse than the kid that doesn't want to be out there.
Yeah.
I mean, as a coach, like that's my nightmare, because it's like there's no upside. He doesn't want to be there. He's got zero interest. He's not getting any better. You're coaching him like you want him to get better, and he's looking at you like, you know, coach, shut up. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm cooked.
Just keep it, you know, really what I'm going to say should never go away, but keep it fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you got to keep it fun. When you do youth camps and stuff, you can only break down so much. You have to joke with them. You have to give them breaks. You have to keep them entertained. And as long as they're always having a positive, fun experience while sneaky working hard,
you know,
when you can throw in little
absolutely.
things here and there, you're going to probably have somebody that's going to want to do it. And if you're going to be good, you got to want to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, with your career, you played a long time, you've coached a long time. Like, there's this whole vibe sometimes of, oh, you know, we gotta grind, and you can totally grind, but you got to enjoy grinding. Otherwise, you're not going to do it anymore. And that's one of the things I'm always trying to push on my guys. It's like, dude, this should be a blast. Like, if it isn't, you're doing the wrong thing. Like,
I think I was watching the MLB draft, and one of the high school. It was like the top 10 picks, and somebody was just saying, one of the big leaguers or commentators were saying, like, if you fall in love with the process, um, everything else kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Like if you love working out, if you love the gains you make daily with your nutrition and your weights, your routines,
Yeah.
then it's going to come easier. But we all look at that as the grind,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Or the a sacrifice that you have to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
When I think of the word sacrifice, I always think of Coach Casey. He goes, he's a big, military, war,
Yeah.
real life books, real things that have happened in history, and particularly Navy SEALs. So he would just always tell us, like, let me tell you about sacrifice.
Yeah.
You're getting up in some nice clothes and heading down in your nice car to work out in a nice facility, and that's an honor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so perspective for me is huge when it comes to that type of stuff.
That's so funny because Lopez used to say the same thing. He's like, "You think this is hard? Try
Yeah.
being 19 in Iraq with a M16,
Exactly.
something on your
same type of stuff."
Yeah,
man.
it's like, and he's so right. But at the time, you're like, God, we got to do bear crawls or run standards right now. This is brutal. But
I just think the best baseball players are the ones that love the weight room and love the cage.
Yeah.
They want to transform their body so they can be better in the cage. Same with pitching, you know what I mean? They watch film, they do. You got to want them to be invested in their career. You only get one of them. You know, but with parents, and kind of the two things we were just talking about is sometimes even you look at a really talented kid and he's swamped.
Yeah.
He's just the parents, the agent, the draft, you know what I mean? Like, really coaching is doing the baseball stuff, but it's getting them to understand, if you worry about that, you'll fall.
Yeah.
If you don't worry about that and you find ways to not worry about that, the distractions will go away and your game will perform, So
yeah, for sure.
Just expectations of life, they were high when you and I were younger, and I think sadly they are more now, you know what I mean, with all the things that we deal with on social media and just instant, access to everybody.
For sure. No, I'd agree. All right. So the final thing we're started recently is I want to hear your best baseball stories, like playing days mostly. Like, what are there any stories you go back to and like, dude, that was hilarious?
Little League, I remember one story, I guess, and then I'll get into the ones that are a little bit better. But being 12 and being like dominant, I was a chubby 12-year-old, and that was like the I was hitting home runs in West Salem Little League. Nobody ever really hit me. I kind of was at the age of 12, I was really, really dominant, for what was going on. And we went and played in like a regional, which would have took you to San Bernardino to go to the World Series. And we're playing a team from Beaverton called Murray Hill. And I don't know how the bases got loaded. I still can't put it in my mind because I never got guys on base. And I remember I threw a curveball to this kid. And he hit a grand slam, and I'll just never forget, like, crying. There's like a picture of me like crying with my mom. My grandpa had it like on his fridge forever, and it's just a big memory for me. It was the first time I ever really dealt with failure. You know what I mean? Or I never felt like such a big moment had hit me, and that was a growing thing, I guess, because I always remember that, and especially when I drive by the Dalles in Oregon, and the other one is I hit for the cycle in Game 3. Against USC.
Okay.
Coach Gillespie. Yeah. To go to Omaha for the first time.
Oh, wow. Really?
In school history.
Okay.
So,
have a day, right?
Friday night we won. We beat Ian Kennedy.
Yeah.
We won about maybe like 8-3. And then Saturday we blew it. Like straight up.
Yeah.
Was winning, had some guys coming in the game, defensive blunders, and the game got away for us. So we go into Sunday thinking we should have won Saturday, and we blew it, and I went 5 for 5, hit for the cycle. We go to Omaha and dogpile, and really, for me, I thought, first of all, getting a cycle. I wasn't a big runner, so the center fielder definitely came in
had to dive and miss something.
And got me chucking a little bit. But we won 10-8. It was we needed my bat.
Yeah.
We also had some other guys that had great days, but that moment for me personally. Going to Omaha.
Yeah, local kid, Oregon guy.
Yeah, I can't imagine a bigger moment that I've had in my pro career, or than in my whole career than that one.
For sure.
And then I would just say in pro ball, I had some streaks. I was an all-star one year and stuff like that. But I just being on the field in spring training with like the Marlins, we were playing the Dominican team one time, and
Yeah.
I got an at bat, and A-Rod was at third, and
Yeah.
you know, you think about all these Dominicans that were going to play in the World Games. You know, being around like when I was early with Dontrell Willis, Miguel Cabrera,
Yeah.
where they were like stars, but not, you know, they were still early in their
for
career.
Sure. Yep.
Dontrell Willis, you know, and then go over to the Rangers, and you know, a lot of your coaches were former big leaguers. You know, Ron Washington was with them on the for spring training, like the first 2-3 months, and being around those guys, and just so many different names and people I've came across that I really admire now. I love vintage history of baseball. I love
know. It's the best.
Nostalgic.
Isn't it? Yeah, I know.
You know, I think about you're wearing a baseballism hat, and I
Yeah.
know Travis and I is the reason why we connected. But you know, just that I think his brand is perfect. You know,
Yeah,
like
it really is.
for what the game needs right now too. It's just simple slogans. There's a vintage look to it, but it's fresh stuff. It's
Yeah.
nice quality. He does a good job, you know, marketing to certain types of people, kids, parents,
For sure.
fans, you know, and all
Yeah,
that.
he totally gets it. I mean, he gets, and you hit it on the head, like the baseball history that, you know, I know other sports have, but it's not the same. I mean, it just, you know, baseball, there are numbers you can throw out for records,
Right.
and we all know what they are. You know, before it was 61, obviously that's been broken, but,
Yeah.
you know, 21, 31, 56, like, you know that DiMaggio's hitting record was 56. I don't have to tell you that. Like, you
Sure.
automatically know. And I think that's what makes baseball so cool. Is like the history just, God, it seeps through our nation too. I mean, it's the best, man.
Yeah, especially when like Tommy Lasorda, you know, I feel more for the Southern California, LA area of sports this last year. I was never a Laker fan. I'm a Blazer fan.
Yeah.
You know, and so I jabbed all finals and Lillard versus all
Yeah,
our guys love the Lakers, and Coach Brown, our assistant, likes the Dodgers, and I think Hookie's more of an Angel guy, and I think Rico, our pitching coach, is a Dodger, and so you see the kind of the banter back and forth of sports. But anyways,
yeah, no, hey man, that's the way it is. All right, so last thing, funniest story from pro ball.
Funniest
you got
story?
one?
Whew.
A funny story. It doesn't have to be the funniest, but a funny one where.
Man, I don't really know if I can. Maybe we go on to something else, and if something pops up, I'll let you know. But
yeah, I'm trying
to. You know, there's so many that I would love to tell off the record. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, right?
I mean, you know, just with so many personalities and
so
kids.
bad.
You know what? I guess this is funny. I mean, it's not groundbreaking, but in 2005, my year I got drafted, I was an 11th rounder, and we had the Marlins traded everybody. Like they went to the World Series, won it. Then they literally traded all their stars.
Right.
Duca, Dontrell, Miggy, everybody left. And we got 5 first rounders, and we got 4 of them were high school kids. Oh, and I still keep in touch with these kids, and they're awesome. And they're not kids. They have families now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was 26, and they were 18.
Yeah.
And given all of them over $1 million, a couple guys, maybe a couple. And just, I think that growing with all of them made it to the big leagues. And so it's a
that's
good
impressive.
Yeah, not for a long time or whatever, but one was a California kid, one was a Southern kid.
Do you remember who they were? Names?
Yeah, Ryan Tucker.
Okay, yeah.
Jake Thompson.
Okay.
Sean West.
Yeah.
And then Chris Volstad was our 1-1, like one of the ones.
Yeah.
And then Jacob Marceau, who's the only college guy.
Okay.
But if you take the 4 high school guys, it was like Volstad was so mature.
Yeah.
I remember Sean West got like probably a $30,000 Tahoe and put like 70 grand into it.
Yeah, exactly.
He had like the MLB logo in the middle. He had flaming lights, and we're like staying at the Holiday Inn. You know what I mean? And every time he came in, you would see it. Tucker was like the most giving guy. He was like, I'm pretty sure he like bought I didn't live with him, but he's like just bought us like 2 Xboxes one day. He's like, cool. You guys can play. You know, I'm like, we don't need, you know.
Yeah.
And just the way that they were so immature with money. You know what I mean? And they all had their lessons, and you know, people would get on him. And then Jake Thompson, you know, had the right away the full sleeve. And he had the girlfriend that was living with him that, you know, was just. It's not a funny story, but when I think about an older, it was just so much immaturities of these guys with money.
Yeah,
and it's when you think about it, like, I don't know what I would do if my kid got $3 million to go play.
Can you imagine?
You know what I mean? Like, what? There's so many different things, you know, that happen. So
no, it's funny too, because like that is a real thing. Like there's the bonus baby, there's the senior sign that got $1,000, and so you got this clubhouse of 25 people that are all trying to figure that out. Like, you know, how do I fit in with the guy that's 3 million, and then everybody's giving him a hard time because he does a bunch of funny stuff. And
it was like, okay, so California, like, just think about trends, you know, like boat shoes and Lacoste was huge at that time.
That's
so
right.
It was like all of them, like if one got a purple one, like all four of them would, and they all hung out with each other. I don't know how they chose to drive the cars, but it was so funny. And you know, two of them, 1 through 100, one was a lefty at 6'7", one was a field, you know what I mean? They were all talented kids. It's just the college piece, I guess, you get from going to college.
For sure.
They were starving for. You know what I mean?
They didn't have Pat Casey, man.
I'm pretty sure Sean West used to call me grandpa. You know, and I was only like 25.
I know, right?
He was 18. You know, he thought I was the oldest guy in the world.
I know.
So
back to perspective. That's funny how that works. So, well, cool, man. I appreciate you coming on. It's awesome. You know, I think, you know, awesome to hear your story about how, you know, just the impact Oregon State had on you, the coaches, and I think it's super important when guys like yourself are now coaching, because that's the next generation.
Sure.
And you know, we all know how we want the game to go and kind of, you know, the direction of the youth. And, you know, when we can have some kind of impact, it's huge, because it makes a huge impact. And obviously, you know, the guys that did that to you, that's why you're still doing it.
Yeah. So. I can't think of how many moments in 7 or 8 years where you kind of get choked up or you got to go for a walk because, you know, you feel like you know, the time you put in with that kid and the buy-in that you've allowed him to have, you know, and he listened, and there's trust and there's all that, where they have a big moment that I had, that you had, that changed the trajectory of the perception of you, or why you would get opportunities or get a chance to play professional baseball. When I see those kids now have that, it's the best feeling in the world. It really is. Sure. And that's how it should be for them, and for them to be best fit in the things that you couldn't do.
Yeah. And I had a buddy on early in this thing, and he'd always go like, why are you doing it? Like when talking about coaches, like, why are you coaching? And you just hit it on the head right there. Like those moments are irreplaceable. Like you can't measure how important they are, and for the kid, but also for the coach too. It just makes it all worth it. So
cool, man. Well, thanks for having me on. This is a sweet setup. I tell you what, me and my wife normally go to Newport and Huntington Beach, and it's perfectly fine over there. But she has always wanted to go to Hermosa and Manhattan. And, she's out probably walking around with the girls right now. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, get a Simpson's burger. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we will.
good stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, thanks, man. Have a good one.
You got it.